Hey there, this is Women on the Brink. I'm your host, Chris Jeffrey, a registered acupuncturist and wellness advisor with a passion for helping women live happier and more balanced lives. When I'm away from work, I'm usually outside in nature, either walking the seawall or I'm hiking in the mountains. And like many of you, my life has been filled with moments of hardship, some that I thought I couldn't overcome and really left me questioning my own strength. But through these challenges, I discovered resilience, courage, and a renewed sense of purpose. So I'm here to share not just my journey, but the lessons I've learned, and to remind you that no matter what obstacles come your way, there's always a path forward. And just to let you know, this podcast is not prescriptive, it's an offering. So please take what resonates with you and leave the rest. Welcome back to Women on the Brink. This is a podcast where we talk about just about anything, especially stuff that makes us cringe and cry or want to scream into a pillow. So whether it's burnout or boundaries, breakups or breakthroughs, nothing is off limits here. This is your space to feel seen and supported and maybe even laugh at the mess from time to time. And today we are flipping the narrative on something that so many of us have been told is a problem: being sensitive. Has anyone ever said to you, "You're too emotional. You need a thicker skin. Stop taking everything so personally"? Does any of that sound familiar to you? Well, I'm here to call bullshit on that story because what if I told you sensitivity isn't your weakness, it's actually your superpower? Yep. And we're going to unpack why today. So, I was that person who was always told I was too sensitive. And I found that really hard to make sense of. Like, I couldn't help what I felt. And I wasn't choosing to feel things so deeply. It just was. So, when people told me to be less sensitive, I didn't even know what that meant. Was I supposed to grow a thicker skin? Was I supposed to build a tougher exterior? Or maybe I was just supposed to like shrug things off that pierced right through me. Anyway, eventually I started doing what many of us do. I just stopped sharing my feelings and I made an effort not to wear them so obviously. So I tucked them away and kept things to myself. And just basically, I just tried to seem unfazed. And I bet I may have looked composed on the outside, but on the inside, I was still feeling it all. And I'd say over time, I think some people started to see me as a bit distant, maybe even aloof, a little guarded, possibly even as a snob. But the truth is, I wasn't trying to be hard to reach. I was just trying to protect my heart that had been told more than once that it was too much. And you know what? Even as an adult, I was once told not long ago by a person with a straight face that I'm too deep. And to this day, I'm still trying to figure out like what exactly she expected from me. Was I supposed to be more shallow, like stick to surface level chatter about the weather and what I bought on sale? Anyway, I've come to realize, or I guess I've chosen to see that what she probably meant was, your presence, Chris, makes me feel things I'm not ready to feel. Or maybe you're asking questions I just don't want to answer. And either way, her discomfort wasn't actually about me. It was about her relationship to depth and maybe her own feelings. But back then, it left me questioning myself again and wondering if being thoughtful, reflective, or emotionally curious was some kind of flaw. And honestly, there are still times when I wrestle with that. But I'm also learning that depth is my gift. Not everyone has it, and not everyone can meet you there. But the ones who can, this is where I see the real magic happening in my life. Because what I've come to realize is that this depth, this emotional sensitivity I was once told to tone down, has actually become one of my greatest strengths. I can read people incredibly well. I sense what's not being said. And I pick up on energy shifts and tone changes and those subtle cues that other people might miss entirely. And it's not just with people. I mean, I see it in the natural world as well. I'll often see animals in nature that other people might walk past without even noticing. A flash movement in the trees, a bird that landed nearby, the presence of something watching or moving with me. I feel that even before it registers visually. And I can also tell when rain is coming, not because of the forecast, but because of a subtle shift in the wind. Or maybe it's a sudden heaviness in the air, or the way the temperature kind of nudges just slightly. And then there's the things that I still don't fully understand, like how certain electrical objects seem to respond to me. There's lights that flicker when I enter a room. There's might be devices that glitch or buzz when my emotions are running particularly high. And, these odd little signals that seem to light up for me, but not often for others. And believe me, this is happening to me more and more. And I have some great stories that I could share. I don't always know what they mean yet, but I do know they're part of this larger sensitivity and emotional, intuitive, energetic, and maybe even spiritual part of life. So, what no one really tells us is that sensitivity often sharpens in times of grief or loss or spiritual awakening. And it's not a weakness, it's a highly attuned feedback system. So, your nervous system is working like a high end tuning fork, vibrating with what's really going on when, no one's naming it. And in times of emotional upheaval, whether it's a heartbreak, a death, burnout, or a spiritual unraveling, that sensitivity can feel almost unbearable. Everything gets louder and closer and more raw. But this is where life cracks you open and wakes up parts of you that have been in this deep slumber for maybe a long period of your life. You're really being asked to notice more, feel more, know more. And yes, I agree, it can be really overwhelming. But it's also a profound gift when you learn how to work with it instead of against it. So here's the question. What if your sensitivity isn't a problem to fix, but it's a language to learn? What might it be trying to tell you right now in this moment of change, loss, or awakening? So stay with us after the break as we explore this deeper current of life, the one that runs kind of beneath the noise and guiding us sensitive ones back to what's real.
Join us on our website for articles from our podcasts at www.womenonthebrink.net. There you'll find extra tools that can be used to raise self-awareness and build resilience. We want to make this experience as interactive as possible for you Brinkers. So join the forums, introduce yourself, and share your stories.
So, sensitivity isn't something you need to shrink or suppress or apologize for. It's actually one of our most valuable inner tools. It's a highly sophisticated internal system that helps us read the world with incredible depth and nuance. And it acts like a personal data collector that quietly scans the environment, picking up on subtle cues and energies and emotional shifts that many, many other people might completely miss. And this ability gives you access to a richer layer of insight that informs your decisions and your relationships and your sense of alignment. Some people might be labeling us here as empaths, but I believe sensitivity exists on a broad spectrum. There are many ways to be empathic and intuitive or energetically attuned. And so rather than boxing yourself into a single definition, it's way more empowering to see your sensitivity as a unique strength that allows you to move through life with greater awareness and depth and discernment. So let's look at what that sensitivity actually is. So, firstly, it's emotional intelligence. We've talked about this before. It's your ability to recognize and feel and respond to the emotional landscape, you know, both yours and other people's. It allows you to sense when something's off, when somebody needs support, or when a moment calls for stillness instead of action. You feel before you analyze, and that is really, really powerful. So in my acupuncture practice, I find this to be one of my greatest assets. So a client would come in complaining of something physical, let's say, maybe it's tension in their neck or fatigue. But as soon as they walk through the door, I can feel something deeper going on. Even before they say a word, my body would register a heaviness or a kind of emotional fog in the room. And I just quietly shift how I approach the session, maybe spending more time listening or choosing points that calm the nervous system instead of just targeting on the pain. And more often than not, they'd end up sharing something emotional that had been weighing on them. That's how my emotional intelligence works. It shows up in really subtle and intuitive ways that guide how I hold space and offer care. The second thing is sensitivity is also energetic intuition. So it's that quiet knowing in your gut or chest. It's the, I can't explain it, but I know it feeling. So you walk into a space and you can sense tension before anyone even says a word. You meet someone and you feel their story even before it's shared. It's less about logic and more about energetic fluency. So this happens to me quite a bit, both personally and professionally, especially in new spaces when I'm meeting people for the first time. Like I'll walk into a room and I'll instantly feel something in my chest tighten, even if everyone's smiling and making small talk, because it's not about what's being said. It's about the energy underneath. And I remember once meeting someone at a networking event, and before they even introduced themselves, I felt this wave of grief move through me. And later in a conversation with this person, they casually mentioned that they'd just gone through a big loss. And that's the kind of thing that, I don't know, I just can't always explain it. I just know. And it never shows up as being dramatic or flashy. It's very quiet and subtle, but it's incredibly real. That's what energetic intuition feels like for me. And sensitivity can also show up as a subtle awareness. So you begin to really notice the little things. It might be a shift in someone's tone, can be a slight change in body language, or the way, somebody's eyes glaze over, or the way the wind shifts right before it rains, as in my case. I mean, these are not just random details, they're actually signals. And you become attuned to them, kind of like a musician that can hear an out of tune note or a very in tune note. So I was traveling by myself in Mexico quite some time ago, and I was wandering a quiet cobblestone street at that golden hour. And I was passing a group of locals that were chatting outside of this little shop. And as I was going by, something in their energy shifted. It was really, really nothing big. Most people might have missed it, but I caught sort of a pause in their conversation and a softening in someone's expression and how someone kind of made room for me to pass on my path. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was more welcoming and very quiet and subtle again. And my body picked it up before my mind could actually even label it. So I just decided to slow down and I went inside the little shop. And I ended up striking up a really short conversation with the shop owner. And he pointed me toward a tucked away viewpoint I would have completely missed otherwise. So it was one of the most beautiful moments of my trip and one that I'll never forget. And that's one thing I love about this kind of awareness. It's not just about spotting danger or discomfort. It's actually about noticing a lot of the magic that other people are missing. Wake up.
Wake up.
And finally, sensitivity is your nervous system's attunement. So our bodies are constantly reading safety cues and asking questions like, is this space safe? Does this conversation feel right? Is this decision aligned? Your sensitivity is simply, your nervous system's way of sending a yes or a no. It's all data and it's important because your nervous system is always on alert, picking up signals from your environment to help you stay grounded and safe and aligned. And I think of it like an internal traffic light system that guides my decisions, lighting the way before my conscious mind even catches up. So the green lights are the moments when everything just feels right. Your body is calm and relaxed and open. These are the signals that say, it's okay, keep going. And I know my green light moments when things are just falling into place. Like recently, I've been planning a trip to Portugal with a friend, and everything has been feeling effortless. The destination feels perfect, the itinerary made sense, every detail, including a great airfare, just lined up. So it's one of those times when I didn't have to force anything, it just flowed. That's definitely a green light. The red lights, on the other hand, are when something feels off. We've really learned to override these in our culture. We numb, we distract. It's when your body tenses and your heart races, or you get that sinking feeling in your stomach. It's your nervous system saying, just stop and pay attention. Something isn't right. And these are the moments of unease, even when you can't pinpoint why. You know, it's that feeling when you get into a situation that doesn't sit well with you, and it's there to protect you and giving you time to reassess and maybe even back away. And I've had many, many red light moments in my life. And again, there are times when I ignored that internal signal, like maybe going to a dinner where I knew the vibe just wouldn't match, or staying in a relationship for too long, or sensing danger in an outdoor stairwell. So this happened to me a long, long time ago. And the person I was with, we decided to override it because it was the shortcut getting it to where we were going. So we started to go down that stairwell only to have someone jump out of nowhere and chase us up the stairs. And we got away, but that moment actually really taught me to pay closer attention to those gut feelings, because those red light moments, they're there for a reason, and they're there to keep me protected and aligned. So the nervous system's job is to guide us through these green and red light moments. The key is learning to tune into your body's signals and recognizing when your internal lights are green for go and trust, or red to stop and reassess. And the more we listen, the clearer the path becomes. So I'm going to pass on some tips that might help you to partner with your sensitivity. And the first one is to stay grounded. We always talk about staying grounded. It's so important. I spend tons of my time walking in nature, or working in my garden, or sitting by water and doing gentle body work like yoga or acupuncture, because grounding keeps me connected to my body and my energetic frequency. And it asks me, like, am I calm, content, connected, joyful? Or am I hovering in fear or shame, or, I don't know, some other lower frequency? Getting grounded will help make you aware of your energy and guide you into what needs to shift. And then another thing is to create those energetic boundaries. We talked a lot about setting boundaries, but even energetically, we get to choose what we are absorbing, whether it's the news, whether it's going to a public event or a family get together. We need to learn to step away sometimes, or set a time limit, or maybe even choose not to get involved at all if it's too much or if it's too draining. The other thing is to reframe emotions as information. And I love this one, because how can we be too emotional? We're we're just very attuned, okay? And then finally, use your sensitivity throughout your day and in your work. So, if you're a leader or a teacher, your sensitivity helps you read the room. You can feel when your team needs a break. You can feel when there's underlying tension or when someone needs more encouragement. And even in parenting, you'll notice when your child's trying to tell you something non-verbally. You know, you can meet their needs with more understanding and care just by picking up on these nuances. By using your sensitivity in these moments, you're not reacting and you're aligning with a deeper awareness that allows you to guide and protect and nurture with confidence. So, what I've learned is that being sensitive is actually my superpower in disguise. And it gives me the ability to sense subtle opportunities, even that other people might miss. And in business, I mean, this is a big game changer because if you're able to do this, you're able to magnetize aligned clients and partners and ideas and inspiration because your sensitivity helps you tune into what truly resonates with you and what doesn't. And this natural attunement allows you to navigate your career and personal life in a way that attracts what's more in alignment with your values and your goals. And here's the key: abundance flows where your nervous system feels safe, and your sensitivity helps you recognize what's truly safe for you. So, again, whether it's a business adventure, whether it's a relationship or a creative opportunity, you are literally wired for abundance. And when you stop seeing your sensitivity as something that's holding you back and instead start seeing it as the guiding force that leads you to the right opportunities, you begin to unlock a whole new level of flow and fulfillment in your life. So, in closing today, sensitivity is not a flaw, it's feedback. It's telling you when something feels right, aligned, and true. And just as importantly, when it doesn't. I actually heard a saying once. It goes, most people live above their neck. Sensitive people live with their whole body all the time. So, my invitation to you today, my dear sensitive sister, is this. The next time someone says you're too sensitive, just smile because you've got a superpower they haven't even begun to understand. And sensitivity is not your weakness. It's your gift, it's your edge, it's your radar. And it might just be the very thing that changes your life. And one last note: if you're listening to this and thinking, yes, this is me, but I don't know how to work with it yet, I want to personally invite you to work with me. I'm currently offering a private one-on-one coaching for sensitive women who are ready to ground their energy and expand their intuition and safely open up to receiving more abundance and ease. So if you're feeling called, you can DM me or visit www.womenonthebrink.net and book a free discovery chat. Because honestly, you're not too sensitive. You're fully alive and you're not meant to do this alone. Thanks for joining. And I want you to know that this isn't just a podcast. This is a movement. So share this information with your friends and let's go, ladies.